Mark chapter 11. Now when they drew near to Jerusalem, to Bethphage and Bethany, at the mountain of Olives, he dispatched 2 of his students, and said to them, "You must go into the village facing you, and immediately as you go into it, you will find a donkey colt tied there, on which no human has yet sat. You must release it and bring it. Now if anyone says to you, 'Why are you doing this?' you must say, 'The master needs it, and he will immediately dispatch it back here again.'" So they went away and found a donkey colt tied to a door outside on the encircling road, and they released it. Now some of those standing there began saying to them, "Why do you release the colt?" Now they told them just what Jesus had said, and they let them take it. So they brought the colt to Jesus, and threw their outer garments on it, and he sat on it. Zechariah 9 verse 9. Then many spread their outer garments on the road, yet others spread soft foliage, leaves, that they had chopped out of the fields. Then those preceding and those following were yelling out, "Hosanna! Our Savior, the one who has been blessed, the one who comes in the Master's name." Jesus. Musical Composition 118, verse 26. Our Father David's kingdom that has been blessed, the one that is coming. Hosanna, our Savior, among the highest. Now he entered into Jerusalem, and into the sacred place. Then, when he had looked around at everything, he went out to Bethany with the 12, as it was already the evening hour, 6 p.m. Then, on the next day, as they went out from Bethany, he became hungry. So when he noticed from a distance one fig tree having leaves, he therefore went to see if he could find anything on it. Then, when he came to it, he found nothing except leaves, for it wasn't the time period for figs. So in response, he said to it, "May no one by any means, even to the last age, eat fruit from you again." And his students were hearing it. Then they went into Jerusalem, and when he had entered into the sacred place, he began to throw out those who were selling and buying in the sacred place. And he overturned the tables of the brokers and the seats of those who were selling doves. And he wouldn't let anyone bring a container through the sacred place. Then he began teaching and saying to them, "Hasn't it been written, 'My house must be called the house of prayer for all the nations'?" Isaiah 56 verse 7. Hasn't it been written, "My house must be called the house of prayer for all the nations"? Isaiah 56 verse 7. Yet you have made it into a cave of robbers. Now the chief priests and the Bible scholars heard this, and they began seeking how to destroy him, for they were afraid of him, for the entire crowd was astonished at his teaching. Then, when it became evening, 6 to 9 p.m., they went out of the city. Now as they were going along in the early morning, 6 a.m., they noticed the fig tree withered from the roots. Then Peter remembered and said to him, "Rabbi, teacher, notice, the fig tree that you cursed has withered." Then in response, Jesus said to them, "You must continually have faith in Almighty. Truly I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, 'Be picked up and thrown into the sea,' and doesn't doubt in his heart, but is continually believing that what he is saying is going to occur, he will have it. For this reason I say to you, everything that you are praying about and requesting, you must be continually believing that you have obtained it, and you will have it. Now, whenever you stand praying, if you have anything against anyone, you must be continually forgiving him, so that your Father also, who is in the heavens, shall forgive you for your offenses. Know verse 26. Then they came again into Jerusalem. Now as he was walking in the sacred place, the chief priests and the Bible scholars and the older ones came to him. Then they began saying to him, "By what authority are you doing these things? Or who gave you this authority to do these things?" Now Jesus said to them, "I will ask you one word, and you must give me a response. Then I will declare to you by what authority I am doing these things. Was John's immersion from heaven or from humans? You must give me a response." So they began reasoning among themselves, saying, "If we say from heaven, he will declare, 'Then why didn't you believe him?' But should we say, 'From humans'?" They were afraid of the people, for everyone held that John really was a prophet. So in response to Jesus, they said, "We aren't aware." So Jesus said to them, "Neither will I tell you by what authority I am doing these things." Mark chapter 12. Then he began to speak to them in illustrations. A human planted a vineyard, placed a barrier, a wall around it, excavated a tub around the wine-treading trough, built a tower, and leased it to farmers, and went traveling. Then he dispatched a slave to the farmers at the harvest time, so that he might get some of the fruits of the vineyard from the farmers. Now they took him, lashed him, and dispatched him empty-handed. So again he dispatched another slave to them, and this one they hit on his head, and dishonored him. So he dispatched another, and this one they killed. And so with many others they lashed some and killed others. Still he had one more, a dearly loved son. He dispatched him last to them, saying, "They will show respect for my son." Yet those farmers said among themselves, "This is the heir. Come on, let's kill him, and the inheritance will be ours." So they took him and killed him, and threw him out of the vineyard. So then, what will the master of the vineyard do? He will come and destroy the farmers, and will give the vineyard to others. Haven't you even read this writing? The stone that was disapproved by the builders, it became the head cornerstone, a pyramid's top stone. It came from the Master, and it is marvelous in our eyes. Musical Composition 118, verses 22 through 23. Now they were seeking to hold him, but they were afraid of the crowd, for they knew that he had spoken the illustration against them. So they left him and went away. Then they dispatched to him some of the Pharisees and Herodians, members of Herod's political party, to catch him in an expression. So they came and said to him, "Teacher, we are aware that you are truthful, and that you don't care about anyone special, because you aren't looking at the surface appearance of humans, showing favoritism, but are truly teaching the way of Almighty. Is it allowed to pay a poll tax to Caesar or not? Should we pay it, or should we not pay it?" Now he was aware of their hypocrisy, and said to them, "Why are you testing me? Bring me a number 80 Roman coin, so that I might notice it." Now they brought one. Then he said to them, "Whose image and inscription is this?" Now they said to him, "Caesar's." Now Jesus said to them, "You must pay to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to Almighty what belongs to Almighty." Now they were astonished at him. Then some Sadducees, the ones who say that there is to be no resurrection, came to him and began asking him, saying, "Teacher, Moses wrote to us, if anyone's brother dies and leaves a wife, and leaves no child, that his brother should take the wife, and raise up seed, children, for his brother." Deuteronomy 25, verse 5. There were 7 brothers, and the first took a wife, and died leaving no seed. So the second took her, and he died leaving no seed. And the third did the same thing. And so all 7 left no seed. Last of all, the woman also died. In the resurrection, whose wife will she be? For all 7 had her as a wife. Jesus affirmed to them, "It's because you haven't become acquainted with the writings or the power of Almighty that you are being led astray, isn't it? For when they rise up from among the dead, they aren't going to marry or be given in marriage, but are going to be like the messengers in the heavens. Yet concerning the dead that are going to be awakened, haven't you read in the scroll of Moses how Almighty spoke to him at the bramble bush, saying, 'I'm the Almighty of Abraham, the Almighty of Isaac, and the Almighty of Jacob'? Exodus 3, verse 6. He isn't the Almighty of the dead, but of the living, those who will live in the last age. Luke 20, verse 38. You are being very much led astray." Then one of the Bible scholars approached and heard them having a discussion. After he noticed that he had responded to them ideally, he asked him, "Which direction is the first of all?" Jesus responded, "The first is, 'Hear Israel, the Master our Almighty is one Master, and you must be continually loving the Master your Almighty with all your heart, and with all your sentient being, and with all your mind, and with all your strength." Deuteronomy 6, verses 4 through 5. Now the second is this: you must be continually loving your neighbor as yourself. Leviticus 19, verse 18. There isn't any other direction greater than these. Then the Bible scholar said to him, "Ideally put, teacher. What you have said is true, that He is one, and that there is no one else except Him. And to be loving Him with all one's heart, and with all one's understanding, and with all one's strength, and to be loving one's neighbor as himself, is abundantly more than all the burnt offerings and sacrifices." Now when Jesus noticed from his response that he had comprehended, he said to him, "You aren't far from Almighty's kingdom." Now no longer was anyone daring to ask him about something. Then in response, Jesus began saying, as he was teaching in the sacred place, "How can the Bible scholars say that the Anointed One is David's son? David himself said, under the guidance of the pure Spirit, 'The Master said to my Master, you must sit at my right until I place your enemies underneath your feet.'" Musical Composition 110, verse 1. David himself calls him Master, so in what sense can he be his son? Now the great crowd was hearing him with pleasure, and in his teaching he was saying, "You must be continually looking out for the Bible scholars, who like to walk around in long robes, and like to have greetings in the marketplaces, and the best seats in the assemblies, and the best reclining places at the suppers. They devour the homes of widows, and for a pretense are praying long prayers. These will get a greater abundant judgment." Now after Jesus sat down, facing the treasury, he began gazing at how the crowd threw bronze coins into the treasury, and many were throwing in great amounts. Then one poor widow came and threw in 2 number 1 coins, which are equal to a number 2 Roman coin. So when he had called his students to him, he said to them, "Truly I say to you, this poor widow has thrown in more than all those who are throwing into the treasury. For all of them, out of their abundance, threw in something, yet she, out of her neediness, threw in all that she had, her whole livelihood." Mark chapter 13. Now as he was going out of the sacred place, one of his students said to him, "Teacher, notice what kind of stones and what kind of buildings." So Jesus said to him, "Do you observe these great buildings? Under no circumstance shall a stone be left here upon a stone, that shall not by all means be demolished." Then, as he was sitting on the mountain of Olives, facing the sacred place, Peter, James, John, and Andrew began asking him privately, "Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign when all these things are about to be concluding?" Now Jesus began to say to them, "You must be continually looking out, so that no one leads you astray. Many will come using my name, or my title, saying, 'I am he,' and will lead many astray. Now whenever you hear battles, and hear news of battles, you must not be alarmed, for it has to occur. But that isn't the completion of this world. For nation will get against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be quakes in places. There will be famines. These things are the beginning of the labor pains. Yet you must be continually looking out for yourselves, for they will deliver you over to the Jewish councils, and you will be lashed in the assemblies, and you will stand before governors and kings on account of me, as a testimony to them. So the good message has to first be proclaimed to all the nations. Now whenever they lead you off and deliver you over, you must not be being concerned beforehand about what you should speak, but you should be speaking whatever shall be given to you during that hour, for it isn't you who are speaking, but the pure Spirit. Then a brother or sister will deliver over his brother or sister to be put to death, and a father his child, and children will rise up against their parents and will put them to death. You will be hated by everyone because of my name, Jesus. Yet whoever endures to the completion of the world or the completion of his life will be saved from destruction. Now, when you notice the abhorrent thing that is making the waste, standing where it ought not, the reader must be comprehending. Then those in Judea must run away into the mountains. Now whoever is on the housetop must not descend or enter to pick up anything out of his house. And whoever is in the field must not turn back to the things behind him to pick up his outer garment. Now how terrible it is for those who are pregnant and those who are nursing babies during those days. Now you must be continually praying that your flight might not occur in winter. For there will be during those days oppression, such as hasn't occurred from the beginning of the creation, which Almighty created, until now, and under no circumstances shall it occur again. So if the Master hadn't cut short those days, no flesh at all would be saved from destruction. But because of the chosen ones, whom he has chosen, he has cut short those days. Then too, if anyone says to you, Notice here is the anointed one. Or notice there he is. You must never believe it. For those who falsely represent themselves as anointed ones and prophets will get up, and they will give signs and miracles to lead astray, if possible, the chosen ones. Now you must be continually looking out. Notice, I have declared everything to you beforehand. But during those days, after that oppression, the sun will be darkened, and the moon won't give her beams. Isaiah 13 verse 10. And the stars will fall out of heaven or the sky, and the powers in the heavens will be shaken. Isaiah 34 verse 4. Then they will see the Son of Humanity coming in clouds with much power and esteem. Daniel 7 verse 13. Then he will dispatch the messengers and will gather his chosen ones from the four winds. Isaiah 27 verse 13. From the extremity of the earth to the extremity of heaven or the sky. Now you must learn an illustration from the fig tree. When its branch has already become tender and sprouts out its leaves, you know that summer is near. So too, when you notice these things occurring, you must know that he is near, at the doors. Truly I say to you, by no means shall this era pass away until all these things occur. Heaven and earth will pass away, yet my words will by no means pass away. Isaiah 40 verse 8. Now concerning that day or hour, the exact time, no one is aware, neither the messengers in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. You must be continually looking out, continually vigilant, and continually praying, for you aren't aware when that time period is. It's like a human traveler, who when he left his home and gave his slaves authority, each with his work, he also directed the doorkeeper to be wide awake. So then, you must be continually wide awake, because you aren't aware when the master of the house is coming, at evening, 6 to 9 p.m., or midnight, 9 p.m. to 12 a.m., or rooster crowing time, 12 a.m. to 3 a.m., or early morning, 3 to 6 a.m., so that if he comes suddenly, he won't find you lying down asleep. Now what I say to you, I say to all, you must be continually wide awake. Mark chapter 14. Now the Passover observance and the festival of the unleavened biscuits were to begin after 2 days. And the chief priests and the Bible scholars were seeking how to take hold of him by fraud, and kill him. For they were saying, not during the festival, so that not at any time will there be a turmoil from the people. When he was in Bethany, at Simon the leper's house, while he was lying down at the table, a woman came with an alabaster vase of costly, authentic aromatic herb oil, of East Indian spikenard. After crushing the alabaster vase, she poured it over his head. Now some were resenting this to themselves. Why has this destruction of the aromatic herb oil occurred? Now this aromatic herb oil could have been disposed of for over 300 number 80 Roman coins, and the money given to the poor. And they were grumbling against her. Yet Jesus said, Let her alone. Why are you making tiring labor for her? She has done an ideal work for me, for you are going to always have the poor with you, and whenever you want, you can do well for them. Yet you aren't going to always have me. What she had, she used. She has put aromatic herb oil on my body for burial beforehand. Now, truly I say to you, wherever the good message is proclaimed to the whole world, what she has done will also be spoken of as a memorial to her." Now Judas the Iscariot, one of the 12, went away to the chief priests to deliver him over to them. Now when they heard him, they rejoiced and promised to give him some silver coins. So he began seeking for an opportunity to deliver him over. Then on the first day of the festival of the unleavened biscuits, when they were sacrificing the Passover lamb, his students said to him, "Where do you want us to go and make things ready for you to eat the Passover?" So he dispatched 2 of his students and said to them, "You must go into the city, and a human carrying a jug of water will meet you. You must follow him. Now wherever he enters, you must say to the head of the house, 'The teacher says, where is my guest room, where I might eat the Passover with my students?' And he will show you a large upper room, ready with places spread, and there you must make things ready for us." So the students went out and went into the city, and found it just as he had told them. And they made things ready for the Passover. Then, as evening, 6 to 9 p.m. came on, he came with the 12. Then, as they were lying back at the table and eating, Jesus said, "Truly I say to you, that one of you will deliver me over, one who is eating with me." They began to be sorry, and say to him, one by one, "Is it I? It isn't I, is it?" Now he said to them, "It is the one of the 12, the one who dips his hand with me into the dish of sauce. For the Son of Humanity is going away, just as it has been written concerning him. Yet how terrible it is for that human through whom the Son of Humanity is delivered over. It would have been ideal for that human if he hadn't been born." Then, as they were eating, Jesus took a biscuit, and after he had given the blessing, he broke it and gave it to them, and said, "You must take this. This represents my body." Then he took a cup, and after he had given thanks, he gave it to them, and they all drank from it. Now he said to them, "This represents my blood of the new contract, that is going to be poured out for many. Truly I say to you, under no circumstances shall I any longer drink of the product of the grapevine until that day, the day of the last age, when I shall drink it new, fresh, in Almighty's kingdom." Then, after they sang a song of praise, they went out to the mountain of Olives. Now Jesus said to them, "All of you will trip, for it has been written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered." Zechariah 13, verse 7. "But after I have been awakened, I will precede you into Galilee." Yet Peter affirmed to him, "Even though everyone will trip, yet I won't." Then Jesus said to him, "Truly I say to you, that you, today, on this night, before a rooster crows twice, 3 times you will disown me. Truly I say to you, that you, today, on this night, before a rooster crows twice, 3 times will you disown me." Yet he kept saying extravagantly, "If I have to die together with you, under no circumstances will I disown you." Now they all also said the same thing. Now they went to a piece of land, the name of which is Gethsemane. And he said to his students, "Sit here while I pray." Then he took Peter, James, and John aside with himself, and he began to be utterly shocked and depressed. Now he said to them, "My sentient being is exceedingly sorrowful, to the point of death. Stay here and be wide awake." Then, when he had gone before them a little, he fell on the earth and began praying that if it were possible, the hour might pass away from him. Then he began saying, "Abba, Father, Father, everything is possible for you. Let this cup be carried away from me, but not what I want, but what you want." Then he came and found them lying down asleep. So he said to Peter, "Simon, are you lying down asleep? Aren't you strong enough to be wide awake for 1 hour? You must be continually wide awake and praying, so that you shall not enter into testing. The spirit on the one hand is eager, yet on the other hand the flesh is weak." Then again he went away and prayed, saying the same words. Then when he came again, he found them lying down asleep, for their eyes were very heavy, and they weren't aware of what to respond to him. Now he came the third time and said to them, "Are you lying down asleep still further and resting? Enough! The hour has come. Notice, the Son of Humanity is being delivered over into the hands of wrongdoers. Get up, we must go. Notice, the one who is going to deliver me over is already drawing near." Now immediately, while he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, came along, and with him a crowd with swords and clubs, from the chief priests and the Bible scholars and the older ones. Now the one who was going to deliver him over had given them a signal, saying, "Whomever I shall kiss, he is the one. Take hold of him and lead him away securely." Then, when he came, he immediately went to him and said, "Rabbi, teacher," and he kissed him fondly. Now they put their hands on him and took hold of him. Now one of those who was standing by pulled the sword and hit the slave of the chief priest and removed his ear. Now in response, Jesus said to them, "Have you come out with swords and clubs to apprehend me as after a robber? I was with you day after day in the sacred place teaching, and you didn't take hold of me. But this has been done so that the writings might be fulfilled." Musical composition 22 verse 6 and Isaiah 53 verse 7. Now they all left him and ran away. Musical composition 88 verse 8. Also, a certain youth was following with him, clothed in a linen sheet on his naked body, and they took hold of him, yet he left the linen sheet and ran away naked. Then they led Jesus away to the chief priest, and all the chief priests and the older ones and the Bible scholars came together to him. So Peter followed him from a distance until he was inside the courtyard of the chief priest. Then he was sitting with the assistants, deputies, and warming himself by the fire's light. Now the chief priest and the whole Jewish council kept seeking testimony against Jesus to put him to death, and they weren't finding any. For many were giving false testimony against him, and the testimonies weren't consistent. So some rose up and began giving false testimony against him, saying, "We heard him say, 'I will demolish this temple made by hands, and I will build another not made by hands in 3 days. Yet their testimony wasn't even consistent like this either. Then the chief priest rose up in the middle of them and asked Jesus, saying, "Don't you have any response to what these testify against you?" Yet Jesus kept silent and didn't give any response. Isaiah 53 verse 7. Again, the chief priest began asking him and saying to him, "Are you the anointed one, the Son of the Blessed One?" Now Jesus said, I am, and you will see the Son of Humanity sitting at the right hand of the power. Musical composition 110, verse 1. And coming with the clouds, heaven or the sky. Daniel 7, verse 13. Now, tearing his own gowns, the chief priest said, "What need do we still have of witnesses? You have heard the slandering. How does it appear to you?" Now they all condemned him to be liable to death. Some also began to spit on him, to put a covering over his face, and to punish him with their fists, and to say to him, "Prophesy." Then the assistants, deputies, took hold of him with slaps. Then, as Peter was below in the courtyard, one of the servant girls of the chief priest came, and when she noticed Peter warming himself, she looked at him and said, "You were also with Jesus the Nazarene." Yet he disowned him, saying, "I'm neither aware of, nor do I have any expertise in what you are speaking about." Then he went outside into the gateway. Then, when the servant girl noticed him, she began again to say to those who were standing by, "This one is one of them." Yet again he was disowning him. Then, after a little while, those who were standing by were again saying to Peter, "You are truly one of them, for you are a Galilean too." Now he began to curse and promise with an oath that, "I'm not acquainted with this human that you are speaking about." And immediately a rooster crowed a second time. Then Peter remembered the declaration, how Jesus had said to him, "Before a rooster crows twice, you will disown me 3 times." Then he reflected on this and began weeping. Mark chapter 15. Then immediately in the early morning, 6 a.m., the chief priests with the older ones and the Bible scholars and the whole Jewish council held a consultation. Then they tied Jesus up and took him away and delivered him over to Pilate. So Pilate asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Now in response to him, he said, "It is as you say." Then the chief priests began accusing him of many things. Now Pilate began asking him again, saying, "Don't you have any response?" Notice how they accuse you of many things. Yet Jesus no longer gave any response. Isaiah 53 verse 7, so that Pilate marveled. Now at the festival, he used to release to them one prisoner that they were requesting. Now there was one called Barabbas, son of the father, who had been imprisoned with those who had committed murder during the insurrection. So the crowd went up and began to request him to do just as he used to do for them. Now Pilate responded to them by saying, "Do you want me to release for you the king of the Jews?" For he knew that it was because of envy that the chief priests had delivered him over. Now the chief priests excited the crowd, that he should rather release Barabbas to them. Now again in response, Pilate was saying to them, "So then, what shall I do with him whom you call the King of the Jews?" Now they yelled out again, "You must fasten him to a stake." Yet Pilate was saying to them, "Why? What bad thing has he done?" Yet they yelled out abundantly. Musical composition 22, verses 12 through 13. "You must fasten him to a stake." Now Pilate, having resolved to do enough for the crowd, released Barabbas for them. And after he had Jesus whipped, Isaiah 53, verse 5, he delivered him over to be fastened to a stake. Now the soldiers led him away to inside the courtyard, that is, the palace, the military headquarters. And they called together the whole military company. Then they put on a reddish-purple coat on him, and braided a thorny winter's crown, and placed it on him. Then they began to greet him. "Rejoice, King of the Jews!" Then they began beating his head with a reed, and spitting on him. Isaiah 50, verse 6. And kneeling, they began worshiping him. Musical composition 69, verse 19, and Isaiah 53, verse 3. Then, after they had mocked him, they stripped the reddish-purple coat off of him, and put his own outer garments back on him, and led him out to fasten him to a stake. Then they forced into service a passer-by coming from a field, a certain Simon from Cyrene, a city in Libya, North Africa, the father of Alexander and Rufus, to pick up his stake. Then they brought him to Golgotha place, which, after translation from Hebrew, means the place of the skull, a skull-shaped hill. Then they tried to give him wine with myrrh in it, a bitter, pain-numbing drink, yet he didn't take it. Then they fastened him to the stake and divided his garments by throwing a lot for them to decide what each should take. Musical composition 22, verse 18. Now it was the 3rd hour, 9 a.m., when they fastened him to the stake, and an inscription of the charge against him was inscribed, "The King of the Jews." Now together with him they fastened 2 robbers to stakes. Isaiah 53, verse 12. One on his right, and one on his left. No, verse 28. Then those who went by kept slandering him, shaking their heads. Musical composition 22, verse 7. And saying, "Ha! Demolisher of the temple and builder of it in 3 days! Save yourself by descending from the stake." Likewise the chief priests with the Bible scholars also mocked him among themselves, saying, "He saved others, but he can't save himself. Let the Anointed One, the King of Israel, descend now from the stake, so that we might notice and believe." Also, those who had been fastened to stakes together with him were reproaching him. Then, when the 6th hour, 12 noon, came, darkness occurred over the whole land until the 9th hour, 3 p.m. Amos 8, verse 9. Then at the 9th hour, 3 p.m., Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani," which after translation from the native language of Mideasterners means, "Almighty, Almighty, this is my purpose or destiny. For this I was kept." Musical composition 22, verse 1. Then some of those who stood by, when they heard this, began saying, "Notice, he is summoning Elijah." Now someone ran and soaked a sponge with vinegar, sour wine, and stuck it on a reed, and tried to give it to him to drink. Musical composition 69, verse 21, saying, "Let him be. Let's see if Elijah comes to take him down." Now Jesus let out a loud sound and expired. Then the curtain of the temple was split in two, from the top to the bottom. Now when the captain, who stood by opposite him, noticed that he had expired like this, he said, "Truly this human was Almighty's Son." Now there was also some women gazing from a distance. Musical composition 38, verse 11, among whom were Mary the Magdalene, Mary the mother of Alphaeus' sons, James and the little one and Joseph, and Salome, the mother of Zebedee's sons, James and John, the ones who, when he was in Galilee, followed him and served him, and there were many other women who had ascended with him into Jerusalem. Then it was already coming to be evening, just before sunset on Friday, since it was the preparation day, Friday, that is, the day before the Sabbath day. Joseph of Arimathea came, a respected counselor, a member of the Jewish council, who was also himself anticipating Almighty's kingdom, and he entered in with daring to Pilate and requested the body of Jesus. Now Pilate marveled that he had already died, and calling the captain to him, he asked him if he had died long ago. Then, when he knew it from the captain, he freely gave the corpse to Joseph. Then, when he had bought a linen sheet, and taken him down, he wrapped him in the linen sheet, and placed him in a tomb. Then, when he had bought a linen sheet, and taken him down, he wrapped him in the linen sheet, and placed him in a tomb that had been quarried out of bedrock. Isaiah 53, verse 9. Then he rolled a stone against the door of the tomb. Now Mary the Magdalene, and Mary the mother of Alphaeus' sons, James the little one, and Joseph, were gazing at where he had been placed. Mark chapter 16. Now when the Sabbath day had elapsed, that is, Saturday evening after sunset, Mary the Magdalene, Mary the mother of Alphaeus' sons, James the little one and Joseph, and Salome, the mother of Zebedee's sons, James and John, bought spices, so that they might go and rub them on him. So very early in the morning, just before sunrise, on Sunday, the first day after the Sabbath day, they went and came to the tomb after the sun had risen. Now they were saying among themselves, "Who will roll away the stone from the door of the tomb for us?" Then, when they looked up, they gazed at the stone, which had been rolled back, for it was tremendously large. Then, when they entered into the tomb, they noticed a youth sitting on the right, who was clothed in a long white robe, and they were utterly shocked. Now he said to them, "Stop being utterly shocked. You are seeking Jesus the Nazarene, who has been fastened to a stake. He has been awakened. He isn't here. Notice the place where they placed him. But you must go. You must tell his students and Peter. He is preceding you into Galilee. There you will see him, just as he told you." Then they went out and ran away from the tomb, because trembling and amazement kept filling them. Now they said nothing to anyone, because they were afraid. Mark chapter 16. Now when the Sabbath day had elapsed, that is, Saturday evening after sunset, Mary the Magdalene, note, verses 9 through 20, aren't in the two oldest and most authoritative Greek copies of the Bible, but these verses are in the third most authoritative copy, which was copied about 450 A.D. It is agreed that verse 8 can't be the end of Mark, and that the end must have been lost from some early manuscript of Mark. There is a different, shorter ending, but it can't claim anywhere near the authority that the verses 9 through 20 ending can. The two oldest copies, which have no endings, were copied about 325 A.D. and 350 A.D., and did leave space on the last pages of Mark for the missing ending. Plus, the early Christian writer Irenaeus, 135 to 202 A.D., has a plain statement which clearly shows that verses 9 through 20 existed during his lifetime, and that he believed Mark to be the author. Now after he rose up in the early morning, 6 a.m. on Sunday, the first day after the Sabbath day, he appeared first to Mary, the Magdalene, from whom he had thrown out 7 demons. She went and reported this to those who had been with him, while they were mourning and weeping. Now when they heard that he was living, and had been gazed upon by her, they refused to believe it. Yet after these things he appeared in a different form to 2 of them, as they were walking, going into a field. Now they went away and reported it to the rest, but they didn't believe them either. Yet later, as they were lying back at the table, he appeared to the 11, and he reproached their unbelief and the hardness of their hearts, because they didn't believe those who had gazed at him after he had been awakened from among the dead. Then he said to them, "You must go into all the world, and you must proclaim the good message to all creation. Whoever has believed and been immersed will be saved from destruction in the second death. Yet whoever has refused to believe will be condemned to die in the destruction by the fire of the second death." Revelation 20, verses 14 through 15. Now these signs will closely follow those who have believed. In my name, Jesus, they will throw out demons. They will speak in languages that are new to them. They will pick up snakes, even if they drink anything deadly. Under no circumstances will it harm them. And they will place their hands on those who are in poor health, and then those will have ideal health. Yes, indeed, after the Master had spoken with them, he was taken up into heaven, and sat down at the right hand of Almighty. Now as they went away and proclaimed everywhere, the Master was working together with them, and was confirming the word by signs that were following.